How does it feel to be back?
Amazing. Really just to be back on the grass, playing football again. It's just back to the work. No matter how many years you play in this business, every year it's the same. You're starting at ground zero, whether you're the last team in the league or the first team in the league. It's really a race to the starting line. And every day, first of all, it's a blessing just to be here and be in this business and be a part of it. You have to appreciate it. But once you get out there on the field, you're in these meetings, taken to the field, it's all about how fast can we get to where we need to be by week one. And every team is in that same race, and somebody's going to separate themselves. So it feels great to be back. It feels great to be playing football. It feels great to be back in the hunt.
Did you think you'd be back here with the Jets?
You know, a man can make all the plans they want in life, but one thing I realize is what's going to happen to you in this world is not your say-so. It's all about how you respond to it. I never would have thought in a million years that I would be back 2 times, let alone 3 times. But for me, I always try to find a positive perspective, and I guess this is just where I'm meant to be. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm happy. My family's happy. Everything feels right. I'm playing with a coach that I believe in more than anything. We've been together for a long time in this league. I'm playing with a locker room full of brothers that I enjoy being around every day. I got a position coach who pushes me. And so it's a lot of fun showing up to work each and every day. Guess what? We 5 weeks in, 6 weeks in, and it's been a joy to come to work every day. And so it's a good situation to be in.
Demario, what's it been like being back with Gino after all these years, and what have you noticed? What are your observations just in terms of, how he might be different now than he was as a young pup back in the day?
This is a high-level business. To play past 3 years, 8 years, a decade in this business is very tough. Just ask guys who've done it. And to do it at the most important position says a lot. To do it as a starter says even more. So you would have at this point what you would believe to have. Is the reason he keeps ending up on rosters. It's the reason he keeps ending up in the starting lineup. So I'm excited to have him in the point of his career. But what I get a chance to see is what probably many people don't see is his personality. And here's somebody who comes to work every day with the right attitude, extremely competitive, one of the most competitive guys I've been around. And his spirit and continence is right. It's something about him when you're around him. I wasn't around him for a multitude of years, but he's obviously walked through different things in life that's brought his continence and his spirit to a place of peace. He's very comfortable in his skin. He knows who he is. He's arriving at this moment with his mind right, and you can feel it. And so it's a joy to have that competitive counterpart going against every day. And that's what our coach has been preaching about the team is competition. Competition and execution. So if you watch our practices, you can tell it's extremely competitive. But then that allows the coaches to put a supreme pointer on execution and the demand that it takes to play at a high level in this game. We have a lot of work to do. And this was day 2 on the field, and we're just laying brick by brick, and that's all we can do is try to win the day in front of us. The practice felt great today. It was very competitive, but there's a lot of execution stuff that we got to work on, and that's what we're going to the film room and get because, as I said, we're in a race to the starting line.
What has been your impression of the defense? AG is kind of run and the scheme all that, had a chance to put it to it.
Man, I'm just excited. I'm excited about the guys that they brought together between Mooj and Aaron Glenn. I got a chance to talk to Mooj at practice. It's just a talented roster. It's talented in terms of the guys that are out there that are proven and talented in terms of the guys that have potential to grow. And so when you have that right mix of guys who are proven and then the young guys who are developing, able to watch somebody at their position who's done it for a long time, it's what you need. You need a talented roster to compete in this game. That gives you a shot, and then it comes down to the execution and staying healthy. But when you think about playing, first it starts with the run game. On defense, you got to be able to stop the run. And so when you're playing behind guys like Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs, Tavondre Sweat, David Onyemata, Osai on the outside, Kingsley on the outside, Will McDonald on the outside, the young guy David Bailey going to be on the outside. When you're thinking about that level of speed on the outside and that density up front for a linebacker, that's very exciting. And then you got one of the most tenured defensive line coaches in the game in Carl Dunbar coaching all those guys. You know what it's supposed to look like. I got a chance to, when I first came in the league, we were one of the most dominant run defenses, and he was a big part of that. I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now. And, playing with somebody like Sherwood beside me, a guy with that explosiveness, able to be sideline to sideline, match guys up in coverage, it just gets you excited, and that's not even going to the back end. But I think the first thing for a good defense, foundationally, you have to be able to stop the run.
What are your
Yep.
Yeah, what are your early thoughts about just David Bailey and just what he can bring to this defense?
I think time will tell. There's a reason why you're the number 2 draft pick. He's the most dominant pass rusher in the draft. And I think when you can get a guy like that and you sound in other areas, it takes a lot of weight off of him where he can do what he does best, which is be able to get after the pass rush. Playing for a defensive line coach like Carl Dunbar, he's not going to accept you just being a one-way player. Coming from Pittsburgh, you watch those guys on the edge, Alex Highsmith, T.J. Watt, you see those guys, they're dominant in the run and the pass. And that's what it's going to be expected of him. I think he's one of those guys that has a tremendously high ceiling. And I think he shows up to work with the right attitude. He's very humble. And that's a big part, I think, with rookies. If they come in and they're grateful for the opportunity and don't have a sense of entitlement, that's a big separator because they're going to be appreciative of every day and they're going to put the work in. And the only time that hard work beats talent is when talent doesn't work hard. When you're talented and you work hard, it's harder to miss than it is to make it.
Take a couple more.
With David Onyemata, who you played with the Saints, what is he going to bring to the defense, and how much can he help the run defense?
I don't want to make a preposterous statement, but because I played with a lot of guys, but he's easily top 5, one of the best run defenders I've ever played with. I mean, he makes a noticeable difference in the game. In our time with the Saints, every year that he was on our roster, we were in the top 5 of the defense in the league. In almost every category you look at, you go back and check that track record. Just especially at our height. I mean, he was just a big force, especially on short yardage downs and when teams trying to run downhill or try to run stretch. He's just a guy who can play on the back side of a play and the front side of a play, commands double teams, and he's effective as a pass rusher and putting pressure up the middle. But as a guy that will continue to champion for a defense, you have to stop the run to be an effective defense, and you need guys who can do it. On the back end, it's a lot more that goes into it, but up front, you just got to be a dog. And you got to have enough dogs up front to get the job done. And when they snap the ball, it's just me versus the man in front of me. And when you have that mentality, the technique, you can find that, but that mindset, and he's one of the ones that just has it.
What have you learned about your new quarterback?
Yeah, man. He's awesome to be around. He's a really good communicator, able to digest this stuff we're all learning very well. And then not to mention, he just throws a really friendly ball. One of those that really easy to catch. You have no problem running right at it. It's friendly. So Gino's been great this last month, and I look forward to getting to know him even more.
Garrett, when you look back on last season, just how difficult was that for you with the injuries?
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was one of those things where in hindsight I look at it and it's like, all right, maybe you needed it, because I hadn't been out for extended period of time up to that point, And it really allowed me to change my point of view and just kind of look at some things from a different angle. So, I don't want to sit here and act like I didn't get anything out of it, but not playing football, which is ultimately what I was brought here to do, it hurt me, and it's never been brought upon me like that, so it was a little different, but not to mention I just needed to change my scope on things, right? That is what's at risk every time I take the field, and maybe I was getting a little bit too comfortable. So, I'm happy to be back now.
How do you feel now?
I feel great. Man. I surprised myself a little bit, and it took a little longer initially than I expected. And we got to the offseason, and all of a sudden I had time, and I was ready to go a little bit sooner. So now it's just getting back comfortable playing. Getting back used to a guy on you while you're running routes, stuff like that. Stuff you can't really mimic until you're doing the real thing. So I feel great. But as far as getting back to myself, I got some work to do. I'm excited though. It's going to be a journey, and yeah, man, I'm not that far off. I don't want to scare nobody. I'm good. I just, you know what I'm saying? But I got a different standard that I just want to get back to, and that's the mission.
You say maybe you got a little too comfortable. What do you mean by that?
Just as far as, going out to practice and not knowing what's at stake every time. We play a dangerous game, and I think when you go, I had been since my senior year without missing time, and that happened off the field. I never really had an injury happen on the field, and I think when it goes like that, all of a sudden you start to get so used to playing. That next Sunday coming, that practice, you're gonna have that opportunity to correct that route you didn't love from the game, right? But the reality of it is, you got to have like a sniper mindset. You get one chance at this thing, right? And that kind of brought it into perspective for me. Is what I meant by that.
Garrett, you talked about Brees obviously just signed his new contract.
Yeah.
What your reaction was when it happened, and then you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but have you guys talked about how you look around and a lot of the guys that you came in with, and it's been so much change over the course of these
No doubt.
years?
No doubt. Yeah, man, I was just super excited to see Brees get locked up because that's one of the guys I came in with, and that day we got drafted, some of y'all probably remember, we had big plans, and you couldn't have told us we weren't going to go accomplish, everything we had talked about as a group, and to look around and still know that, I got a guy that I talked about that with, and that, we didn't, it's not a failure, it got delayed, it sucks to see some of the guys that we came in with not here, as far as just like what Brees is talking about. But that's the reality of this thing when you don't go play good ball. So the reality of it is we got to figure this thing out, and we are. We're on the proud to do it. And when you got a guy like Brees to make it a whole lot easier, man. He's special at what he does, one of the best in the league, and I'm excited that they locked him down because we're gonna need him, man. That boy can play, and not to mention he just knows what it's gonna take to turn this thing around, and he's excited for it. So
What have you learned about the person,
Yeah.
dealing with him and everything like that? Because he's obviously been through a lot.
No, 100%, man. And you start to realize, people go through a lot, and how do they come out on the other side of that? And when I met him, it was like, oh, that's how he came out of it, man. He's a top-notch human, a guy that, as a receiver, we search out for, we want to talk to our quarterbacks. We want to have those conversations. We want to know what they're thinking, because at the end of the day, we want to catch the ball, right? So it's like, hey, what do you think so I can catch the ball? And that's the reality of it, and he's super receptive on all that. Been super awesome. Not to mention just the way he was able to, he was so good at verbalizing the offense and what Coach Reich had talked about him or talked to him about early on, that I thought it was Gino's offense that he had kind of brought with him from the past. But no, man, he's just that receptive, that willing to learn, and I think that says a lot about someone, and you start to realize, oh, he's been in here 10, 12 years in the league. I don't know how long he was here, but when a lot of guys, when they're first place and it didn't go the way they wanted to, they don't ever make that rise back to the top. We got two guys in that have been on the Jets, didn't go the way they wanted, and they wanted to come back and prove something, right? That are great players, already proved enough, but they want to come back and prove it here, and that's special to me. And when you meet him, it just reverberates through him, man. He's a great guy, and not to mention, I can't wait to keep building our chemistry.
What's it been like learning Frank Reich's new offense? Because this is your fourth new offense in 5 years.
Yeah, it's been great, honestly. This is, probably one of the offenses that I'm gonna look back on in a few years and love the most. It's really player empowering. I'll say. I don't really know how else to put it. It's just as receiver empowering. Skill position empowering. You got a guy that's played quarterback and kind of gets it as far as the instinct side of football, the side of it that's not going to be perfect. That the way we drew it up on paper, but you got to embrace that. There's a way to train people to make the right decision when it isn't going perfect, and he focused on that, which I love. Right? If this guy guards it here, hey, you could sit there. That's the answer. And it sounds simple, but not everybody's like that. Sometimes the way it's installed is the way it's going to be ran every time, and as a player, you got to get on the train or you're going to get left behind. This guy's more of we're all on this train together, and if we got to slow down to bring him along, we're going to bring him along. He's a little different, his running style, so we got to find a way to get him the ball on time, and you just don't see that as much, and I think that I really appreciate that about Frank. You could tell he's been around the block, been around a lot of different receivers, different personalities, and he just, man, he's great, man. He's great. So I'm excited to go bring all his thoughts and his dreams to life, bro, because we got a special opportunity, and I know he's excited too to be a part of this thing.
Garrett, what's it been like the last couple of weeks just to be in the area and see what the Knicks are doing, and maybe glean some things from them and envision what it might be like when the Jets could get to that point?
No doubt. I got a taste of that last year with the Knicks playing the Pacers and getting it to Game 7, I think it was, and then this year it's been turned up a notch, and it's cool, man. This city deserves it, right? And when you see the way they receive it, it's just like, oh yeah. I mean, you wish it could happen every year, man. Seeing the people, the way they get behind their team. I know Jet fans are like frothing at the mouth to cheer like that, and we want to give it to them. I personally want to give it to them, the most. So it's yeah, man. It's cool to see, and I'm glad I'm up here for it. I'm rooting the Knicks on like hell. And yeah, man, that gives us a taste of what it might look like when we figure this thing out, which, we're excited for the opportunity.
Did you get your finals tickets?
Say it again?
Getting finals tickets?
You know what? Nah. Nah. They got them John's expensive. So, not yet. I'm gonna be watching.
There was a lot of optimism and excitement kind of this time last year too when Coach Glenn came in. What gives you the confidence that now the right tools and people are in place to take that step forward towards a turnaround?
Yeah. I mean, just knowing AG, knowing the people that we have upstairs, I've got to have convos with them since day one, since, before last season, and they laid it out. They're pretty upfront about how this thing might look, how they want it to look, and how it might look, right? And obviously we wanted to go out and win the Super Bowl last year. That's how everyone's wired. But this year, second year, it feels a little different. We can talk about the Super Bowl, we could talk about the playoffs, stuff like that, because it's it's just we've been putting in. Last year it was still so fresh, and everyone was coming in, meeting new people. Not that that's not the case this year. It's just less of it, and for me, it's like a comfortability level with my coach, with my receiver room. Certain things that are you don't realize it when you don't have it. But it's priceless when you do have it, because it's just a comfortability about going to work. This season's got to be the best one. It's got to, because we hear it, and that's just how I know the guys I talk to. That's how we feel about it. So it's I don't want to call it like, I don't know. You play the game. You play it to play at the highest level. From a young kid, I wanted to go play against the best, to prove it against the best, and ain't nothing changed as far as that. As competitors, we want to go do it at the highest level, and every day that's what we're working towards, and it feels like we can do it. It's just, that's what it comes down to. You got to believe before anything happens. You got to believe, and the belief is high.